Have you ever asked yourself, why do I say yes to things I don't even want? Why do I sometimes buy stuff I don't need? Believe in something that makes no sense? Or get stuck in a toxic relationship I can't seem to escape? The answer is right here. The human mind is an invisible battlefield, and there are dozens of subtle tricks being used on us every single day through advertising, media, and even the people around us. These tricks make you feel like you're making a free choice, when in reality, you're just walking down a path someone else quietly designed for you. In this series, 90 hidden psychological mind games that secretly control you every day, we're going to uncover each one of these tricks, from sales tactics to social habits, to the hidden mechanisms in your own mind you never even noticed. And more importantly, we'll learn how to face them with awareness and strength, just like the Stoics. Because once you understand the game, you can choose not to play. Once you see how manipulation works, you can finally take back your freedom. So hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey, because when you understand your mind, you're not just escaping control, you're becoming the master of your own life. In the previous part, we already uncovered 45 psychological mind games, the ways the world, other people, and even your own brain can secretly control your behavior. Some felt familiar, and others made you pause and think, wow, that's happened to me too. But that was only half the journey. Ahead of us are dozens more subtler, harder to spot, sometimes sweet like honey, but strong enough to chain your freedom. In this next part, we'll continue exposing these tricks, so you're no longer an unconscious victim, but someone who lives awake, aware, and free. As the Stoics would remind us, no one can hold power over you unless you hand it to them, and the key is awareness. Idea 46. Spotlight Effect. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like every single eye was on you? Your shirt has a wrinkle, your hair's a little messy, or you say something awkward and suddenly you're convinced the whole world noticed. In reality, most people didn't. They're too busy worrying about themselves. That's the spotlight effect, our tendency to exaggerate how much others are paying attention to us. This effect makes us live with unnecessary tension, always thinking we're being judged. But in truth, everyone is standing under their own imaginary spotlight. The Stoics would remind us you're not as important in other people's eyes as you think, and that's actually freeing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Soon they will all forget you, just as you will forget them. So why care so much about their gaze?" The question is, are you living your life like an actor on an imagined stage? Or are you living authentically free, without needing any spotlight at all? Idea 47. Gambler's Fallacy. Have you ever seen someone flip a coin 5 times in a row, all heads, and then say, next one has to be tails? That's the gambler's fallacy, the illusion that random events will balance out in the short term. In truth, each flip is completely independent, and our minds love to imagine hidden patterns. In casinos, this fallacy keeps players trapped, lose too many rounds, and they think a win is just around the corner, win several times, and they believe I'm on a hot streak. Both are illusions. Both lead to losses. And in real life, we do the same. I've suffered so much. Surely life owes me something good by now. But the universe doesn't operate on that kind of fairness. The Stoics would remind us, don't look for fairness in chance, but in how you live with virtue. Epictetus once said, don't ask the universe for what it gives you. Ask yourself if you've used well what it's already given. So the question is, are you living by real laws of nature, or just comforting yourself with the illusion that the next round will be different? Idea 48. Anchoring bias in relationships. Have you ever heard someone say, from the very first moment I met them, I knew they were perfect? That first impression, a kind gesture. A sweet compliment becomes a powerful anchor. It colors the way we see the entire relationship. Even when red flags appear later, we still cling to that first moment. Many toxic relationships survive because of this. Someone was kind once, and we hold on to that image, waiting for it to return while enduring years of disappointment. A sweet promise made at the start can keep someone tied to a sinking ship. The Stoics would remind us, don't let a single moment distort your whole perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "See things as they truly are, stripped bare, without adding or subtracting." The question is, do you love the person as they really are? Or are you still in love with the first image your mind anchored long ago? Idea 49. Reciprocity Trap. Have you ever received a small gift from someone and suddenly felt almost forced to give something back? A smile, a free coffee, even just a compliment sometimes that's enough to make us feel indebted. That's the reciprocity trap. Reciprocity is a powerful social rule, but when exploited, it becomes a tool of manipulation. Salespeople know this well. They hand you a free sample, and suddenly you feel awkward walking away empty-handed. In relationships, a manipulator might give you a little affection, then use it as leverage. After all I've done for you, how can you say no? The Stoics would remind us real gratitude is not obligation, it's a free choice. Epictetus once said, if someone gives you something, accept it as a free person. Otherwise, the gift itself becomes a chain. So the question is, are you giving back because your heart tells you to, or because you're afraid of looking ungrateful? And if your choices are built on pressure instead of freedom, is it really love at all? Your Idea 50. Dunning-Kruger Effect. Have you ever met someone who learns just a little bit, then suddenly acts like they know it all? They speak with confidence, dismiss opposing views, even laugh at those who actually understand more. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect, the paradox where the less someone knows, the more they overestimate their own ability, while true experts are more cautious, aware of their limits. In society, this is dangerous. False confidence can overshadow truth. A loud, uninformed voice can sway a crowd. On social media, enthusiastic amateurs often attract more attention than careful, knowledgeable voices. The Stoics would remind us strength doesn't come from showing off, but from recognizing your own gaps. Socrates, the very father of philosophy, was humble enough to admit, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." So the question is, do you want to be the one shouting to be noticed, or the one quietly learning to truly grow? And do you have the courage to admit your own ignorance? Idea 51. Ostrich Effect. Have you ever put off checking your bank statement because you were afraid of what you'd see, or avoided a health checkup, worried you might hear bad news? That's the ostrich effect. Burying your head in the sand, pretending a problem doesn't exist, hoping it'll just go away. In the short term, avoidance feels comforting, but in the long run, it only makes things worse. Debt piles up, illness progresses, relationships fall apart, all because we chose to look away. The Stoics would remind us facing reality, however painful, is the only path to freedom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it's true, accept it. If it hurts, let reason teach you how to endure it." Avoidance never solves a problem, courage does. So the question is, what truth are you avoiding in your life right now? And if you faced it head on, could that be the very first step toward your freedom? Idea 52. Hedonic Treadmill. Have you ever gotten excited about buying something new only to find that after a couple of weeks, the joy fades and you're already chasing the next thing? Or maybe you hit a big goal, felt on top of the world, and then the emptiness crept back in. That's the way. Hedonic treadmill, our tendency to return to a baseline level of happiness, no matter how many new highs we reach. In today's world, this treadmill is fully exploited ads, social media, consumer culture. They promise lasting happiness, but really, it's just quick jolts that keep you running without ever arriving. The Stoics saw this long ago. Seneca wrote, "He who is not content with little will not be content with much." True happiness isn't in endlessly adding more, it's in learning to be content and finding joy in what lasts: wisdom, friendship, virtue. So the question is, are you stuck running on the invisible treadmill of pleasure? Or have you learned to step off and enjoy peace? Right here, right now. Idea 53. Learned optimism. Have you ever met someone who, even after failure, still smiles and says, "It's okay, I'll try again"? That's not always natural. It's often learned optimism, the trained ability to see events in a more positive light. Psychologist Martin Seligman showed that the way we explain events shapes how we feel. A pessimist sees failure as the end. An optimist sees it as temporary, a lesson. Over time, this attitude builds a cycle. Optimism fuels effort. Effort brings results, and results reinforce optimism. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "It is not events themselves that disturb you, but the way you view them." Optimism isn't pretending everything's perfect, it's having the courage to believe you can face it and grow stronger. So the question is, when life knocks you down, do you believe the world is against you, or do you see it as training for your soul? Idea 54. Social comparison trap. Ever scroll through social media and feel like everyone else has a perfect life, the dream job, luxury vacations, picture-perfect love, and then you look at yourself and suddenly feel less? That's the social comparison trap, measuring your worth by someone else's yardstick. This instinct runs deep. In ancient times, comparison helped us know our place in the tribe, but in today's world, it fuels envy, anxiety, and endless dissatisfaction. Because no matter what, you'll always find someone richer, prettier, or more successful. The Stoics would remind us, don't waste your life staring at what others have. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You will never be happy if you keep looking at what others have instead of what you already possess." Real happiness comes from living with virtue, not from winning an invisible race. So the question is, are you living to be truly yourself, or just to prove you're not less than anyone else? Idea 55. Illusion of superiority. Have you ever noticed how most people think they're a better than average driver or in class? How many students believe they're smarter than the majority of their peers? That's the one illusion of superiority, our tendency to overrate ourselves, to believe we're special and better than others. On one hand, this illusion can boost our confidence and push us to take risks, but taken too far, it blinds us. We ignore feedback. We dismiss others. At work, it makes us miss chances to grow. In relationships, it keeps us from listening. And in society, it creates overconfident leaders who drag crowds into mistakes. The Stoics would remind us you don't need to be better than others, you only need to be better than who you were yesterday. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not think of yourself as special. Be humble, for even the emperor is just a man." So the question is, are you living to prove you're superior, or are you living to become a truer, better version of yourself day by day, hour by hour? Idea 56. Status quo bias. Have you ever stayed in a boring job just because, well, at least it's familiar, or held on to a habit you knew was useless, simply because change is too much effort? That's the wide status quo bias, our tendency to cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves us. It comes from instinct. What's familiar feels safe, while change sparks fear. But the irony is, this false safety often traps us in careers, relationships, and even outdated ways of thinking. The Stoics would remind us change is the very nature of the universe. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything changes, and so does your soul. Change is not your enemy, it is the law of nature." So the question is, what are you holding on to today just because it's familiar, even though deep down you know it's holding you back? And do you have the courage to finally step out of that comfort zone? Idea 57. Planning fallacy. Have you ever told yourself, this project will only take a week, and then it drags on for a month, or thought you'd finish your work in one evening, only to be up at 3 a.m., still struggling? That's the planning fallacy, our tendency to underestimate the time, effort, and risks required to complete something. We imagine a smooth, straight road with no obstacles, forgetting that reality is full of delays, interruptions, and surprises. That blind optimism leaves us frustrated, burned out, and sometimes ready to quit when the real world doesn't match our rosy plan. The Stoics would remind us, plan with reason, but always prepare for the unexpected. Seneca once wrote, "The wise man hopes for the best, but is prepared for the worst." So the question is, are you building your plans on wishful thinking or on the harsh truths of life? And are you ready to walk the long road patiently, instead of chasing shortcuts that don't exist? Idea 58. Availability heuristic. Have you ever heard about a plane crash and instantly thought, flying is so dangerous, even though the odds of a crash are incredibly low? Or maybe after seeing a string of crime reports, you felt like the world is getting more unsafe, even when statistics show crime is actually dropping. That's the availability heuristic. When we judge the likelihood of events based on the examples that come to mind easily, rather than the full picture. Our brains love shortcuts. What's vivid, emotional, or recent feels more common than it really is. And manipulators in media know this. They highlight rare, shocking cases and turn them into collective fears while hiding the broader reality. The Stoics would remind us, don't trust your first feeling. Go back to reason and truth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If something frightens you, ask, is it truly dangerous? Or is it just my mind exaggerating an image?" So the question is, are you seeing the world through real data or through the powerful memories and fears planted in your mind? Idea 59. Survivorship bias. Have you ever heard about a billionaire who dropped out of college and thought, see, dropping out can still make you successful? Or read about investors hitting it big and assumed, I could be rich too. That's witty survivorship bias, focusing only on the rare success stories while ignoring the countless failures that never make the headlines. During World War II, researchers studied planes returning from battle to decide where to add armor. At first, they wanted to reinforce the spots with the most bullet holes, but statistician Abraham Wald pointed out, we're only looking at the planes that survived. The ones that didn't make it back tell the real story. That shift saved lives. The Stoics would remind us, don't let flashy stories fool you. Seneca once said, we admire what stands out, but forget the unseen majority that makes up the whole picture. So the question is, are you learning from the whole truth or just the glittering scraps that survived? And is your belief built on reality or on lucky stories? Idea 60. Authority heuristic. Have you ever heard someone say, well, the doctor said it, so it must be true? Or, this celebrity uses that product, so it must be good. That's the bad authority heuristic, our mental shortcut of trusting authority figures instead of checking the truth ourselves. Sometimes it helps following an expert can save time, but blind trust quickly becomes manipulation. Advertisers use experts to sell you things. Politicians use strong voices to win obedience, even when their arguments are empty. And in personal life, we often hand our decisions over to others just because we assume they must know better. The Stoics would remind us respect wisdom, not titles. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, even the emperor can be wrong if he forgets what is right. So the question is, are you making choices based on truth or just on the cloak of authority someone is wearing? Item 61. Illusion of truth effect. Have you ever heard a statement repeated so many times that you eventually started to believe it, even though at first you doubted it? That's the illusion of truth effect. Our tendency to accept something as true just because it's repeated often enough. Media, advertising, even politics exploit this all the time. A lie repeated over and over can carry the same weight as truth. A brand name echoed in your ears every day eventually feels better, simply because it's familiar. And in your personal life, it happens too. If someone keeps telling you, "You're not good enough," you might eventually start believing it despite the lack of evidence. The Stoics would remind us truth doesn't depend on how often it's repeated, but on its essence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If something is false, then even if 1,000 men repeat it, it does not become true." So the question is, are you believing something because it's truly real, or just because you've heard it too many times? Idea 62. Pygmalion effect. Have you ever noticed how, when someone believes in you, you tend to perform better, and when they doubt you, you stumble even in something you're usually good at? That's the Pygmalion effect. The way other people's expectations can shape your actual results. In schools, students who teachers expect more from often excel, not because they're smarter, but because that belief sparks confidence, effort, and growth. At work, a leader's trust can lift an entire team. On the flip side, doubt and low expectations can crush potential before it even has a chance. The Stoics would remind us, don't live your life chained to others' expectations. They can lift you, yes, but they can also enslave you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not live as if you were meant to please others. You were born to live by reason and virtue." So the question is, whose expectations are you really living for your own or someone else's? And do you have the courage to set the right expectations for your own life? Idea 63. Placebo sleep effect. Have you ever had a terrible night's sleep, but then someone tells you, "You look well rested," and suddenly you actually feel more awake? That's the placebo sleep effect. The belief that you slept well can trick your body into performing better, even if you didn't. Researchers once tested this. They told participants their sleep quality was high, even though it wasn't. Those people scored higher on tests and felt more alert than the control group. Their mind literally fooled their body. This shows the incredible power of belief, but it's also a warning. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm exhausted, I'm sleep deprived, I can't function," your body will start to live out that script. The Stoics would remind us, don't let negative thoughts dictate your reality. Epictetus said, "It is not events themselves, but the way we think about them that determines how we are." So the question is, each morning, what belief are you feeding, one that weakens you, or one that gives you strength to move forward? Idea 64. False memory. Have you ever argued with someone over what really happened and both of you were absolutely convinced you remembered it right, only to realize later your memories didn't match at all, or maybe you've had a detail etched in your mind, only to discover it never even happened? That's weighty. False memory. The human mind isn't a perfect recorder, it's more like a storyteller, adding, trimming, and patching things together. We're highly suggestible. A small hint, a leading question, can plant an entirely false memory. In courtrooms, countless cases have been overturned because witnesses swore by memories that were completely manipulated. And in everyday life, one simple suggestion from someone else can make us recall something that never existed. The Stoics would remind us, don't trust your mind blindly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Memory and imagination are only images in the mind. They have no power over your soul unless you give it to them." So the question is, how many times in your life have you acted based on a memory that may never have been true? And do you have the courage to question even your own recollections? Idea 65. Emotional blackmail. Have you ever heard someone say, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me"? Or maybe a parent saying, "If you don't obey, I'll be heartbroken forever." That's emotional blackmail. When someone uses love, guilt, or your fear of losing them to force you into compliance. This tactic is dangerous because it attacks where we're most vulnerable, our need to be loved and accepted. Under emotional blackmail, we're not just afraid of losing a relationship, we're afraid of being seen as ungrateful or heartless. And so, we cage ourselves inside walls built from guilt and manipulation. The Stoics would remind us true love never grows out of coercion, it comes from freedom. Epictetus said, "If someone demands you sacrifice virtue to please them, know this, they do not love you. They love what they get from you." So the question is, are you responding to genuine love? Or are you trading away your freedom just to avoid the guilt someone else planted in you? Idea 66. Halo effect. Have you ever met someone well-dressed, confident, and instantly thought, they must be smart, kind, trustworthy too? Or when a celebrity endorses a product, you assume it's good just because you admire them. That's the halo effect. When one positive trait creates the illusion that everything about a person must be positive. This effect blinds us. A charming smile can hide a manipulative heart. A sweet voice can mask lies. In politics, in business, even in love, the halo effect makes us ignore what's real and fall for what shines. The Stoics would remind us see things as they truly are, not through the glow of appearances. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Strip away the mask and look at the thing itself. Don't let outward charm deceive your soul." So the question is, are you trusting the real person or just falling for the halo your mind has painted around them? Idea 67. Gaslighting. Have you ever argued with someone and, even though you knew you remembered things correctly, they kept denying it, repeating it so many times that you started doubting your own memory and sanity? That's gaslighting, one of the most insidious manipulation tactics, designed to make you lose trust in yourself. Gaslighters rarely attack head-on. Instead, they chip away little by little. You're remembering wrong. You're too sensitive. That's not what really happened. Over time, you stop trusting your memory, then your feelings, and eventually even your own worth. It's how toxic relationships keep victims trapped by destroying their inner compass. The Stoics would remind us, never let anyone steal your ability to trust your reason. Epictetus once said, "If someone makes you doubt what is clear to you, know that the flaw lies in them, not in you." So the question is, how many times have you stayed silent, thinking, maybe I'm wrong, when in reality it was your intuition crying out for help? Idea 68. Fear of missing out FOMO. Have you ever scrolled through social media, seen friends traveling, attending events, or launching projects, and suddenly felt anxious? If I don't join in, I'll fall behind. That's FOMO, the fear of missing out. FOMO drives us to chase crowds, signing up for courses we don't need, buying things we don't really want, or holding on to relationships just to avoid being alone. The feeling that everyone else is doing it becomes an invisible pressure pulling us away from what truly matters to us. The Stoics would remind us you can't attend every party, seize every chance, or live every life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek happiness, be content with what fate has given you, for it is tailored to you." So the question is, are you living out of genuine desire, or just running so you won't be left behind? And if you stopped, looked inward, would you still be afraid or finally free? Yajdia 69. A rejection. Have you ever met someone who constantly accuses others of lying, while they themselves are the liar? Or someone who's irrationally jealous and suspicious, because deep down, they are the ones craving betrayal? That's why projection, the unconscious habit of pushing your own flaws, fears, or desires onto someone else. Projection is like a distorted mirror. Instead of facing what's inside, people throw it outward to feel lighter. But the cost is heavy broken relationships, endless blame, and cycles of misunderstanding. The Stoics would remind us have the courage to look inward before pointing outward. Marcus Aurelius asked himself daily, "The fault I despise in others, does it also live in me?" Only by facing our own shadows can we treat others with true fairness. So the question is, how many times in your life have you been staring at your own darkness, but thought it was someone else's fault? Idea 70s. In-group versus out-group bias. Have you ever noticed how we're quick to forgive, defend, and excuse people in our own circle family, close friends, trusted coworkers, yet we're harsher, more suspicious, even dismissive toward outsiders? That's why in-group versus out-group bias. Our tendency to divide the world into us and them, even when the truth or values aren't all that different. Throughout history, this bias has fueled religious conflicts, ethnic divides, and wars. And in daily life, it quietly robs us of connection as we slap on the label, "They're not one of us." But when those walls come down, we see the truth. People everywhere share the same needs for love, safety, and meaning. The Stoics would remind us humanity is one big community, and we're just small parts of it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What's not good for the hive is not good for the bee." In other words, harm to others is harm to ourselves. So the question is, are you seeing others through the eyes of fairness or through the narrow lens of a group you've unconsciously built? Ride 71. Scarcity mindset. Have you ever caught yourself obsessing over what you don't have and forgetting everything you already do? When money is tight, every thought circles around bill. When time is short, you can't see past the rush. That's the weight scarcity mindset. When lack consumes your focus, shrinking your perspective and weakening your judgment. Studies show that when people feel scarcity, their decision-making collapses. They borrow recklessly, fall for scams, and chase short-term fixes because their minds are hijacked by the pressure of not enough. The irony is, scarcity mindset often makes us poorer not just in wealth, but in spirit. The Stoics would remind us wealth isn't about having more, it's about knowing what's enough. Seneca wrote, "A poor man is not the one who has little, but the one who never feels he has enough." So the question is today, are you staring at what's missing, or are you grateful for what you already have? And if you shifted your perspective, might you realize you're richer than you think? Idea 72. Moral licensing. Have you ever told yourself, I worked so hard today, I deserve to binge eat tonight. Or, I just did something good, so it's okay if I'm selfish now. That's moral licensing, using one good deed as a license to justify a bad one right after. This trick fools us into self-deception. A business person donates to charity, then uses it to excuse unethical practices. A parent sacrifices for family, then feels entitled to control and lash out. The good act becomes a shield for indulgence. The Stoics would remind us virtue isn't a scorecard, it's a way of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't think that doing right today gives you permission to do wrong tomorrow. Virtue takes no holidays." So the question is, how many times have you used a good deed to excuse something you knew was wrong? And if you drop the self-justification, could you live with greater integrity every day? Idea 73. Cognitive dissonance. Have you ever known something was wrong but did it anyway, and then made excuses to feel better, like when you believe health is important, but still stay up late scrolling your phone, telling yourself, "Just tonight, I'll sleep early tomorrow"? That's like cognitive dissonance. The discomfort when our beliefs and actions don't match, pushing us to find reasons to smooth over the conflict. Instead of changing behavior, most people change their beliefs. A smoker might say, "My grandfather smoked all his life and lived long." Someone unhappy at work might say, "At least it's stable." The tension gets covered up, but the real issue remains. The Stoics would remind us facing the truth is more important than comforting lies. Epictetus said, "Do not deceive yourself for short-term ease. Confront what reason makes clear." So the question is, are you changing your actions to live by your values or twisting your values to excuse your actions? Idea 74. Broken window theory. Have you ever walked through a neighborhood, noticed one broken window left unrepaired, and then soon saw more windows shattered, trash piling up, graffiti spreading? That's the being broken window theory. The idea that ignoring small problems sends the silent message, "No one cares," which encourages bigger problems. In society, one dirty wall left uncleaned can drag down an entire block. In personal life, one small bad habit like procrastination or little white lies can open the door to bigger mistakes. The Stoics would remind us today's small things are the foundation of tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not overlook the little things. Every action is a seed, and you will reap what you sow." So the question is, what broken windows in your life are you ignoring? And if you repaired them now, could you save the entire house of your soul from collapse? Idea 75. Foot in the door technique. Have you ever agreed to a small favor only to be asked for a bigger one later that was harder to refuse? A neighbor asks you to watch a package for an hour. You say yes. A few days later, they ask you to watch their pets for a week. Because you already said yes before, it feels much harder to say no now. That's the bien foot in the door technique, when one small yes opens the door to much bigger requests. Researchers have shown once someone commits to a small act, they're far more likely to commit to larger ones. Charities, salespeople, even manipulative partners use this principle all the time. The Stoics would remind us even a small yes can become a chain. Epictetus taught, "Do not act against reason. Even in small things for others will use it to lead you further astray." So the question is, how many times have you done something you didn't truly want just because you'd already agreed before? And do you have the courage to stop before that door shuts tight behind you? Idea 76. Bystander effect. Have you ever witnessed an emergency in public like a traffic accident where dozens of people stood around, yet nobody stepped in to help? That's the Bystander effect. The paradox where the more people present, the less likely each individual is to take action. The psychology behind it is simple, we think. Someone else will handle it, or fear making a mistake and standing out. And so, the bigger the crowd, the smaller the courage. History has seen tragedies unfold not because no one was there, but because too many were. The Stoics would remind us moral responsibility is never outsourced to someone else. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't ask who will do the right thing. Be the one to do it." Virtue doesn't wait for consensus. It calls for individual courage. So the question is, if one day you witness injustice or danger, will you stand frozen with the crowd or step forward even alone to do what's right? The 77. Illusion of knowledge. Have you ever skimmed a few online articles and felt like you understood a complex topic, or overheard a couple of conversations and thought you were ready to debate an expert? That's the gay illusion of knowledge, confusing a little information with true understanding. The mind craves simplicity. It tricks us into believing we've grasped the essence, when really, we're just scratching the surface. In the internet age, this illusion is everywhere. Knowledge is abundant, easy to access, but often shallow. The danger. Thinking we already know shuts the door to deeper learning. The Stoics would remind us wisdom begins with admitting our limits. Socrates said, "I know only one thing, that I know nothing." That confession wasn't weakness, it was the doorway to true wisdom. So the question is, are you living with real knowledge or just fragments of information that fool you into thinking you've mastered it all? Idea 78. Negativity bias. Have you ever received 10 compliments but held on to the one insult, or looked back on a day full of peace and joy, only to obsess over a single problem? That's the negativity bias. Our mind's tendency to cling to the bad more than the good. From an evolutionary view, this once kept us alive. Remembering threats helped our ancestors survive. But in modern life, it often traps us in anxiety and bitterness. One careless remark can poison a whole relationship. One small failure can overshadow countless successes. The Stoics would remind us, don't let one dark cloud block out the whole sky. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Remember how many good things have happened and be grateful for them. Don't let a single thorn make you forget the beauty of the garden." So the question is today, are you letting your mind spiral around one scratch, or opening your eyes to see the bigger picture of life's fullness? Idea 79. Anchoring effect in money. Have you ever seen a shirt priced at $200, then discounted to $100 and instantly thought it was a great deal? In reality, that $200 price tag was just an anchor planted to make $100 feel attractive. That's the way anchoring effect in money, where our decisions are heavily influenced by the first number we're shown, even if it has nothing to do with the true value. Salespeople, investors, and negotiators know this well. A company launches a sky-high luxury model just to make the cheaper version seem reasonable. A realtor starts with an inflated asking price, so every number after feels like a relief. The Stoics would remind us the true value of something isn't in the number someone slaps on it, it's in your need and your clarity of mind. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but the way we view them." So the question is, the last time you spent money, were you buying real value or just paying for an anchor? Someone slipped into your mind. Yeah, it is the 80. Endowment effect. Have you ever held on to an old item you never use just because it's mine? Or struggled to sell a car or house at market value simply because you owned it? That's the endowment effect, our tendency to overvalue something just because it belongs to us. Psychology experiments show this clearly. If you're given a coffee mug and later asked to sell it, you'll likely demand a much higher price than if you'd never owned it. Ownership itself inflates value. In business, this traps us in losing investments, clinging to the hope they'll bounce back. In life, it makes us hold on to relationships, habits, or possessions that no longer serve us. The Stoics would remind us nothing truly belongs to you except your mind and your virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "All things you love will change hands. Only virtue stays with you." So the question is, are you honoring true value or just clinging to the illusion of ownership, chaining yourself to things you should release? Idea 81. Sunk cost fallacy. Have you ever kept watching a bad movie just because you'd already made it halfway through, or stayed in a toxic relationship just because you'd already invested years in it? That's the geek sunk cost fallacy. When we keep pouring time, money, or energy into something simply because we've already spent so much, even though we know it's no longer worth it. This bias feeds on our fear of loss. We think, if I quit now, all my effort will have been wasted. But the truth is, those costs are already gone. Holding on only makes us lose more. The wise don't ask, "How much have I spent?" They ask, "From here forward, what's still worth it?" The Stoics would remind us, don't mourn what's past, live rightly in the present. Epictetus said, "The past is not yours anymore. Do not let it chain you again." So the question is today, are you continuing because you truly want to, or just because you don't want to admit the waste? And if you had the courage to let go, could you open the door to a new beginning? Idea 82. Hedonic adaptation. Have you ever achieved something you dreamed of, a new phone, a dream job, even a beautiful relationship, and felt over the moon? But then, just a little while later, that happiness faded, and you found yourself chasing the next thing. That's why hedonic adaptation, our tendency to quickly get used to joy and return to our baseline level of happiness. This cycle keeps us running on a wheel. Achieve, feel happy, get used to it, crave something new. Modern life exploits this relentlessly. Advertising, social media, consumer culture. We're sold the lie that just one more thing will bring lasting happiness. But in truth, it's just the same wheel spinning endlessly. The Stoics would remind us happiness doesn't come from adding more, but from knowing what's enough. Seneca wrote, "He who is not satisfied with little will never be satisfied with much." So the question is, are you still running on the wheel of pleasure, or have you learned to step off and enjoy the simple things you already have? Idea 83. Paradox of choice. Have you ever stood in front of a supermarket shelf with dozens of sauces and wasted time not knowing which to pick, or opened Netflix, scrolled through hundreds of movies, and ended up watching nothing? That's the worry. Paradox of choice. The more options we have, the more anxious, indecisive, and dissatisfied we become. In today's world, we're surrounded by endless choices, careers, products, even relationships. But instead of bringing freedom, abundance often leaves us exhausted. We fear choosing wrong, regret what we didn't pick, and sometimes can't choose at all. The Stoics would remind us real freedom doesn't come from unlimited options. It comes from knowing what truly fits you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you want peace, desire less. If you want freedom, choose less." So the question is, are you spending your life stuck in endless comparisons, or living decisively with a few choices that truly matter? Idea 84. Groupthink. Have you ever sat in a meeting where everyone nodded in agreement, even though deep down you knew something was off, but you stayed silent because you didn't want to be the odd one out? That's groupthink, when the desire for harmony and unity makes people ignore reason, and the whole group makes poor decisions. History is full of disasters born from groupthink, failed military campaigns, collapsed mega-projects, all because no one dared to speak the uncomfortable truth. In daily life, groupthink keeps us complicit with injustice, just so we don't fall out of step with the crowd. The Stoics would remind us living by reason matters more than living by consensus. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Truth does not change, even if 1,000 people oppose it." So the question is, do you have the courage to speak when everyone else is silent, and when the crowd marches in one direction? Will you dare to stop and ask, is this really the right path? Day 85. Spotlight bias in social media. Have you ever posted a picture online and then sat there worrying, will people notice that pimple on my face? Do they think my outfit looks bad? That's the spotlight bias. The belief that everyone's staring at us, when in reality, most people just scroll past, too busy thinking about themselves. On social media, this bias is even stronger. We stress over every word, every image, as if all eyes are on us. But the truth, most people glance and forget. The fear of being judged robs us of the freedom to share authentically. The Stoics would remind us, don't let your mind be imprisoned by imaginary eyes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "They will forget you soon enough, just as you forget them. So why care so much?" So the question is, are you living true to yourself or just performing as an actor on the virtual stage of social media? Idea 86. Authority bias. Have you ever heard someone say, "The doctor said it, so it must be true"? Or, "This celebrity uses the product, so it has to be good"? That's authority bias. Our tendency to trust those with status, reputation, or fame, even when the evidence is missing. This bias makes it easy to hand over our decisions to others, politicians, experts, influencers. But power doesn't equal truth. A doctor can be wrong, a celebrity can endorse nonsense, and a leader can lead people astray. The Stoics would remind us, don't look at status, look at reason. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Even an emperor is not free from error if he forgets what is right." Truth doesn't need authority's stamp, it stands on its own. So the question is, are you acting today based on truth or just the cloak of authority someone else is wearing? Our idea 87, self-serving bias. Have you ever noticed that when you succeed, you think, "That was my talent and hard work"? But when you fail, you shrug, "Just bad luck"? That's the self-serving bias. Our tendency to credit ourselves for success but blame failure on circumstances or others. This bias protects our self-esteem, but it also blinds us. It keeps us from learning from mistakes because we look everywhere but inward. It damages relationships because everyone insists they're right and the other is wrong. And it traps us in a private illusion of fairness, tilted in our favor. The Stoics would remind us, have the courage to face the truth, even when it hurts your ego. Seneca wrote, "The wise man does not fear being shown his faults, for that is his chance to grow. Only when we're humble enough to take responsibility do we become truly free." So the question is, in your last failure, did you truly learn from yourself, or did you just blame fate and everyone else? Idea 88. Just world hypothesis. Have you ever heard someone say, "He's poor because he's lazy," or "She had bad luck because she must have done something wrong"? That's the just world hypothesis, the belief that people always get what they deserve, and the world is inherently fair. This belief gives us comfort. If I live well, good things will come. But reality is more complicated. Good people suffer. Bad people sometimes thrive. Believing too much in a fair world can make us cold to others' pain or even blame ourselves unfairly when misfortune strikes. The Stoics would remind us the universe was never designed to please you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not expect the world to be fair. Expect yourself to be strong enough to face its unfairness." True freedom is not waiting for perfect justice. It's living with integrity while accepting reality as it is. So the question is, are you comforting yourself with the belief that everything is fair? Or are you ready to face life's harsh truths and grow stronger from them? Idea 89. Illusion of control. Have you ever pressed the elevator button over and over, believing it would come faster, or picked a lucky number in the lottery, thinking it gave you a better chance? That's the illusion of control. The tendency to believe we can control events that are completely random or beyond our reach. It makes us feel safe, but it also feeds superstition and manipulation. Investors think they can read the market. Lovers believe that if they try hard enough, they can control someone else's feelings. But the truth is, some things are simply not ours to decide. The Stoics would remind us freedom comes from knowing what's in your control and what isn't. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, others are not. If you confuse the two, you will suffer." So the question is, are you wasting your precious energy trying to control the uncontrollable or focusing on the one thing you truly own yourself? Idea 90. Overconfidence effect. Have you ever seen someone speak with absolute certainty about a topic, only to realize they barely understood it? That's the mean overconfidence effect, when people overestimate their knowledge, skills, or control. In small doses, confidence helps us take action, but when it goes too far, it becomes a trap. Investors convinced they'll win big lose everything. Drivers who think they're better than average speed into accidents. In relationships, those too sure of their own charm fail to see when love has already slipped away. The Stoics would remind us true confidence isn't believing you're never wrong, it's knowing your limits. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The wise man does not boast of certainty, but seeks truth in each moment." So the question is today, are you acting with sober confidence or walking on thin ice without even knowing it? Hospusing. And there we have it, the full journey through our 90 psychological tricks and hidden mind games. From the smallest daily habits to the deepest unconscious patterns, these forces shape us more than we realize. But remember, learning about these games isn't about living in paranoia. It's about living in awareness. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, your mind will become unconquerable if it learns to see things as they truly are. Every time you recognize a trick, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. And that freedom isn't just about breaking free from outside manipulation, it's about breaking the invisible chains inside yourself. If this journey was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, so we can spread awareness to more people. Because this isn't the end. Coming up next, we'll explore not just how to recognize these mind games, but how to actively train your mind to live strong, free, and stoic. See you in the next chapter.